Great kid. If you knew him, you loved him. Brought laughter to the room every time he stepped in the room.
Jared Ward was Jameer Tompkins' football coach at Dawn Community High School.
More than just an athlete. He was a kid who came to school every day on time, spent 10 hours a day at the school. He played football, basketball, ran track, and was elite at everything he did.
A young life cut short Thursday night as Jameer and 4 of his teammates were walking home from this Sunoco station in Bond Hill after getting snacks after practice. Surveillance video shows the moment a car drives by, opening fire on the boys. They scatter, all except for Jameer, who remains on the ground out of view.
They are not kids that were doing anything malicious. They're practicing until 6:30 every day. Probably don't get home until 7. So to be out at 8 trying to get something to eat, they should be safe. We have to do better as a community with getting these guns off the street and actually creating safer environments for our kids. They should not fear going outside.
Coach Ward says it's the people who did the shooting who are falling through the cracks. It's why the director of the Coda Doan schools is spending so much time on teaching young people how to settle their differences and deal with their complex emotions.
What we try to do is create an environment where kids can interact with each other, have the opportunity to de-escalate, conflict that they have with each other, to build within their own toolbox of how to deal with conflict.
But he says it's the politicians who really need to be reached.
What about the people who we elect? What about the people who are making these policies that allow the guns to be on the streets? Somebody has to step up and do something about this, or we're just going to see this continue to happen.
Something Coach Ward cannot stomach as he stares at Jameer's old jersey.
The hope and the light that he brought, he will forever be missed. This place will never be the same.
Coach Ward told me that he tries his hardest to keep his kids out of harm's way, but sometimes traumatic events just find them. Now, there is a GoFundMe page set up for Jameer. His mother writes on the page, "He was in the wrong place at the wrong time, a straight-A student who never bothered anyone." Police say the investigation is still ongoing. No suspect information at this time. There was another boy who was shot in the back and the shoulder during that incident. He's now recovering at home. Kyle?
Your heart just breaks, David, for that young man's family and friends tonight. And this week has been a violent one on Cincinnati streets. On Sunday, there were 3 separate shootings and 4 victims. On Monday, there were 2 victims in separate shootings and 1 person died. On Tuesday, 1 person was wounded in another shooting. And just last night, there was that double shooting that killed Jameer Tompkins and injured another teen. Then early this morning, 2 people were hospitalized after a shooting in Carthage. This week, there were 11 victims in 8 separate shootings. Police Chief Teresa Thigi says even though all of these shootings were unrelated to each other, the number means that everyone should be concerned.
None of us should have to live in a society where our youth cannot grow up to be adults. They should be doing things like many other youth. They should be going to school. They should be playing sports. They should be doing all the things that traditionally a young man or woman does. So we have to collectively as a community figure out what's going on, why it's going on, and what are the alternatives.
Shootings overall in the city are down just slightly from last year, but gun violence involving teens, that is on the rise.
You can always find our stories here on YouTube, but go ahead and click subscribe to get notifications and stay in the know.